Welcome, everyone. This is the first part of three writing series talks we're going to have this year because you guys told us that was a really important topic to you. And we had Dr. Austina de Bonte here speaking a year ago, and it was too short. And everybody said, please, please, we want to hear more from Austina. So she is back. So tonight we're going to talk about getting students writing, supporting twice exceptional students, and other reluctant writers. And just in case you're not familiar with REAL, we are a nonprofit in Silicon Valley who works to ensure twice exceptional students thrive in school by doing events like this for parents. And we'll talk about a little bit more about our parent offerings, as well as doing educator professional development. So what is 2E? This is a definition from Bridges School that we like to use, which is a combination of distinguishing strengths, high abilities, or potential in one or more areas in a student, and complex challenges at the same time, such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and others. And we like to think of it as combining the yellow and blue to make a green individual, and both the yellow and the blue have to be simultaneously supported, which creates a challenging and complex situation for schools, which is why we created REAL. So our parent services include the expert speaker series, like you're hearing tonight. We also have a free bi-monthly parent support group that's online. We have a Google group that now has over 900 members where you can ask and answer questions about any kind of services, schools, challenges you're having. A new parent toolkit service that Callie will put links to in the chat, where you can download kits about how to start off the school year right, and all kinds of other topics. And we have a lot of online resources, including an IEP guide for twice exceptional learners. We have a schools list and guidance and a talk coming up soon about how to choose a school for your 2E learner. And we also have two paid offerings, which are small facilitated groups of only up to 8 people on topics and very specific topics that change each quarter. And then we also offer one-on-one consultations. We have a very special event, hot off the presses. You are the first to hear about this, called Walk a Mile in Their Minds. And you can sign up. Callie will put the link in the chat. And this is showing you the neurodiversity simulations that we do at schools for educators, where they experience what it might feel like to be a dyslexic learner, a learner with attention challenges, and experience it firsthand. And it develops empathy and then makes it really easy to move on to conversations about how to best support these learners. This is our first time doing this for our parents, and so we're really excited to have you come and experience this simulation. And as I mentioned, we have a 46-page IEP guide because twice exceptional learners often have challenges getting an IEP because they're doing too well. And so this is a whole guide for free for you to download about how to go about and getting an IEP guide for your learner. As I mentioned, we also have educator services. We do custom professional development, like the learning differences simulation. And we also have a lot of online resources, recorded talks, and a bi-monthly educator newsletter. So you can share us with your schools, or if you're an educator, you can bring us to your school. And REAL has also published the Dear REAL model, which has specific examples on how to develop connections, embrace flexibility, attend to strengths, and reframe behaviors in the classroom for all ages K through 12. You are now attending one of our fall events. The others have been recorded and are available on our website. And in a couple of weeks, we are having our private school and educational options panel. We also have an upcoming talk about self-regulation, the walk a mile in their minds that I mentioned, and then a behind the mask understanding anxiety, perfectionism, and masking in 2E kids, as well as our 2E parent support group coming up. You can follow us. You can join our Google group. You can follow us on socials and watch all of our previous recordings on YouTube. And now I would like to introduce our speaker. Dr. Sina DeBont is president of the Washington Coalition for Gifted Education, past president of the Northwest Gifted Child Association, and a consultant at Smart is Not Easy. She specializes in helping families get to the root causes of their kids' 2E challenges. She also works with schools to improve equitable identification and service models and better understand their gifted and 2E learners. Dr. DeBont received the NAGC Carolyn Callahan Doctoral Student Award, People to Watch by Variations 2E, the WAETAG Advocacy Award, and 3 outstanding PTA Outstanding Advocate Awards. She has a master's degree from MIT and an ED from Bridges Graduate School, where her dissertation was titled Beyond Universal Screening, Practices and Attitudes that Promote Equity in an Accelerated Program. So thank you so much for coming tonight, and I will let you share your screen. We're so happy to have you.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the invitation. It is great to be back here again. Let me get myself shared here so you can see what I'm seeing. All right. Is that in the correct presentation mode? Yes? Fabulous. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Austina Bonte. I come from the Seattle area. And I'm involved in a number of nonprofits here in Washington State, as well as my own little consulting business. Our topic today is all about writing. And my intent is to actually take a very practical, pragmatic approach. We're going to kind of talk about the actual things that get in the way and in a decent amount of specifics. And so I hope that you will come away not with sort of platitudes, but with some real actionable things that you can take home and help either your kids in your classroom or kids in your house or kids in your orbit, however you might work with them. All right, so here's our agenda for tonight. We're going to do just a brief little overview on twice exceptional and neurodiversity as context. We're going to talk a little bit about, do kids actually have to write? Because sometimes we ask them to write when they actually don't need to write. Then we're going to spend a lot of time talking about a root cause approach. How do we really dig into the root cause and why taking a root cause approach actually really matters, because it helps us make sure that we know how to support. When we apply the wrong support, nothing happens, and then everybody gets frustrated. Then we're going to dive into 5 very specific causes of writing challenges. I don't believe that these are the only challenges, but these are by far the most common ones. And then kind of an extra bonus. And along the way, we're going to talk about all kinds of supports and strategies and accommodations and interventions, clues, tips, tricks. And in the end, we'll talk a little bit about IEPs and 504s and artificial intelligence and a couple other things just to wrap us up. So that's where we're going. Sound like what you came for? Then join the ride, because here we go. All right, so who are twice exceptional students? So we are talking about kids who are both highly capable, as we say in Washington State, and also have some sort of a disability, a learning difference, a mental health issues, some kind of other challenge or neurodiversity of some flavor. They're a really unique population of students that may fail to demonstrate either high academic performance or obvious disabilities. Their gifts may mask their disabilities may mask their gifts. A lot of these kids kind of fly under radar, and we don't always necessarily realize exactly what's going on, often until they really run into trouble. And sometimes the place where they run into trouble first is writing. Another way to think about twice exceptionality is as neurodiversity. Neurodiversity is this term that was sort of originally coined in the context of autism, but actually we understand it now much more broadly, right? Actually, there's a way in which everybody is neurodiverse in the sense that every brain is unique. There's actually a really neat functional MRI study demonstrating that every brain is unique, just like a fingerprint. But our twice exceptional students' brains are kind of extra unique. We call them a neurodiverse population. They come with a pattern of strengths and challenges, sort of different brain architecture, not better, not worse, different. A different way of seeing the world, a different way of processing things, and actually comes with some really lovely strengths and also some challenges. Really important to respect individual differences among twice exceptional students, because twice exceptional students actually are not all the same. Twice exceptional is kind of this big umbrella term that covers a whole lot of ground. And so any combination of stuff could be going on under this umbrella, and this isn't even a complete list, but it's a lot of the heavy hitters. And I'll point out that actually, if you go to a neuropsychologist for a full evaluation, they're only looking at the stuff in the orange box. All the stuff on the other side, you need individual other providers, other experts, other practitioners to even dig into. Many neuropsychs won't even refer over to the left-hand side of the umbrella. That's an issue that I'm working on in my work, but that's the truth of it, and it's important for parents and teachers to know that. Um, and the bottom line is that writing is challenging for lots of twice exceptional students. We sometimes sort of group writing under, oh, that's a dysgraphia thing, maybe it's a dyslexia thing. But actually, there's a lot of challenges in writing for just about everybody under this umbrella for various reasons, if not for no other reason than because writing is hard. And writing is hard for all students, even on a good day, not just twice exceptional students. It's a very complex task that we're asking kids to do. And so when we see a kid that's reluctant to write, it's kind of the signal, it's the canary in the coal mine that something is going on and this kid needs some support. And sometimes it really is sort of a writing specific thing, but sometimes it's actually sort of the first hard thing that we've asked them to do. And actually, there's a whole lot of other stuff bubbling under the surface. We're not going to talk about that so much now, but I do want you to kind of have that in the back of your head that we're going to sort of talk about the things that are really directly responsible for writing here. But sometimes the thing that kids need support for is actually deeper than that and is sort of a foundational thing underneath it all. Also, in classrooms, we're going to have some kids who very clearly need supports, but a lot of other kids will actually benefit from those same supports, but aren't going to be so obvious about it. Okay. And so, those of you who are coming here with your teacher hat on, keep that in mind. Because writing is a super complex, multi layered skill, it's hard for lots and lots of kids. And it takes some practice and some real effort to get going. Okay, so the first question is, when we're asking kids to do things in school, do they actually have to write? I will quote Dr. Susan Baum from Bridges and the 2E Center. Um, don't turn everything into a secret language arts lesson. If you're coming here as a teacher, think hard, like, what is the learning objective? If the learning objective is not about writing paragraphs and convincing somebody of something, or developing writing conventions or whatever, if the learning objective is something more like understand scientific principles or develop reasoning skills, that doesn't actually necessarily have to be in writing. There are other ways to do it. So let me give you some ideas of what that can look like. Kids can demonstrate their mastery of a topic or of a learning objective or work with a particular topic area in lots of different ways. Could they draw a diagram? Could they make a poster? Could they make some slides? Could they draw a comic strip, make a podcast, make a video, build a model? We want to give our kids choices and opportunities to really lean into their strengths, because there's lots of different ways that kids can demonstrate mastery. So how do we do that? We get lots more flexible about assignments. We don't have every kid making the same snowman on the wall, right? We want kids to make different things. One kid makes a snowman, another kid makes something completely different, right? Encourage creativity, build on strengths. The point here is not writing. The point is communication of ideas. There's lots of different ways to communicate ideas that doesn't have anything to do with writing words and paragraphs. Okay, but we are here to talk about writing, so let's talk about writing. I'm going to take a real root cause approach. Okay, we're going to use this analogy of a tree. And in the leaves of the tree are the symptoms. They're the things that we see. Okay, but the symptoms, it turns out, don't really tell you all that clearly what's going on. What we really want to understand is the causes, and those are beneath the surface of the soil. They're a little bit more obscured, and so you really have to know what you're looking for. I'm hoping that over the course of the next hour, I'm going to give you some tools and some ways of thinking about it that will help you better dial in on, oh, that's probably the cause that's happening with my kid. Actually, that's probably not the cause happening with my kids. So you can narrow in on which things need the support, which supports are going to be most helpful, and not waste your time on stuff that's not going to be helpful. Okay, there are lots of different possible causes of writing challenges, some that are indirect, that I've kind of mentioned in passing. We're going to talk about the ones that are more direct for the rest of the time tonight. But no matter what the cause is, the supports and the strategies are different depending on the cause. And when we apply a support that's not the right one, it causes frustration, right? The kid doesn't actually see anything get easier. The parent is like, hey, I thought this was going to make things easier, but it's not. You must not be working hard enough. You must not be doing it properly, right? And now there's all this tension when in fact the real problem is not sort of and not high fidelity of implementation. It's that it was actually the wrong solution, or it was the wrong support. One thing in the land of writing that tends to get bandied about quite a bit is occupational therapy, OT, right? Oh, your kid has trouble with writing? What you need to do is go and do some OT. Well, okay, maybe, but actually OT only addresses one of the 5 causes we're going to talk about tonight. So let's make sure that it's actually the right thing before you go run off and go work with OT. Okay, so if a kid is having trouble with writing, what might we see in the leaves of the tree? What are the symptoms that we would see? Well, we might see that it's hard to get ideas out, or just that there's not a lot of written output. Um, Maybe there's a lot of trouble with grammar and punctuation and capitalization, things that we might call writing conventions. Maybe there's difficulty with letter formation. Maybe handwriting is just illegible or messy. Maybe the kid just doesn't write all that much. They just avoid writing. And so it's really hard to figure out what's going on because there's just not a lot of it happening. Um, Maybe the kid can write very neatly, but when they write very slowly. And the product is really nice, but it just takes a really long time. Maybe they say their hand hurts or they're kind of cracking their knuckles when they're writing. Maybe it seems like they're not really writing, more like they're drawing. They're drawing letters one stroke at a time. Maybe it's actually an issue with organizing ideas, and I've got so many ideas and I can't quite figure out where to start. Maybe it's an issue with spelling. We have plenty of issues with our kids with funky pencil grip, right? How much of a problem is that? Is that adjustable? When is it adjustable? We're going to talk about that tonight. We have kids who, have a tendency to just like go on and on and on with run-on sentences. Like, okay, where's that coming from? Maybe even kids are making errors when copying, even with copy work, right? Like, why does that happen? When does that happen? What is that telling us? But the bottom line is all that stuff is happening up top. And when you look at that whole and you think about which one of those sort of apply to your kid, it's not so easy to figure out what's going on. Under the surface, there are 5 different sort of primary causes we're going to talk about tonight. The first primary cause is a fine motor or muscular issue in the hand. This is actually the land of OT. Okay, we'll talk all about them. Number 2 is something that is related, but actually not the same, and needs a different set of strategies around automaticity, the muscle memory, the motor memory of making letters. Number 3, a very foundational skill, vision processing. How well are the eyes and the brain actually seeing what's happening on the page, and how is that whole system working? Number 4, dyslexia. Often in our twice exceptional community, it shows up as stealth dyslexia. It's not so easy to spot. Usually these kids don't have reading issues per se, or at least not obvious ones, yet it shows up a lot in their writing. So we'll talk about how you figure that out and whether that's what's going on. And then number 5, ADHD or executive function issues tend to cause issues with writing. And we'll talk about where that's coming from and what we can do about it. So those are the 5 big ones we'll talk about. And then there'll be a little bit of bonus at the end. All right, so let's dig in. So if we were to just prune the tree to the things that specifically point to fine motor muscular, this is what you might look at, but it's still a little fuzzy. Like it's not totally clear by looking at this that for sure you would dial in and say that's just a muscular issue, because some of these things can happen for other reasons. If it's a fine motor muscular issue, let's talk about what the root cause of that actually is. We're talking about the small muscles in the hand. We're also talking about the bigger muscles in the arm and the forearm, actually even into the core and the trunk. I'm talking about stamina in those muscles as well as coordination in those muscles and muscle groups. If you've got a kid who doesn't it's hard for them to sit still in a chair to write, or who tend to write sort of with funny postures. They're leaning this way, they're leaning that way. They prefer to lie on the ground. They prefer to write upside down. They anything but sitting in a chair. Often there's a muscular issue behind that. So what are some clues that would tell you, yeah, it's likely this is what's going on? Certainly if a kid is telling you like something doesn't feel right, my hand hurts, this muscle is not feeling right. They're cracking their knuckles, they're shaking out their hand a lot. That's definitely something that points in this direction. Kids who have kind of funky pencil grips, that often is a fine motor muscular issue. All that sort of posture wriggling stuff that we talked about. And here's one that often helps kind of narrow it in better. Usually these kids, if they have trouble with writing and it's a fine motor issue, they're also not going to love drawing, and they're also not going to love crafts with small little fiddly bits. Okay. Big Legos may be okay. Small, teeny little Legos, probably not. Okay. And so that might help you sort of narrow in like, okay, is this likely sort of a physical thing that we need to dial in on or not? Okay, so how do we help? This is the land of occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is fabulous about both testing and knowing how to measure hand strength, grip strength, trunk strength, coordination, all that stuff. They can measure it pretty conclusively, and they know how to support it. They know how to build up those muscles, and they know how to do it in a pretty kid-friendly way. But there are things that you could do at home as well. And these are tools that occupational therapists use as well. So actually, if you give a kid a teeny tiny piece of crayon, a teeny tiny pencil, a teeny tiny piece of chalk, and have them write with it, there is no way to hold on to it other than with a tripod grip. And so it forces using a tripod grip and forces muscle development in those groups. And so that is, one type of strategy that you can try at home to kind of build up those muscles. Play-Doh, clay, not just pushing, but actually stretching is actually just as important from a muscular perspective. There are also zillions of different pencil grip devices you can get. You can get a variety pack on Amazon, figure out what works for your kid, especially ones that really have a clear spot for each finger to go. Figure out what your kid actually likes and what feels good, and then buy a whole bunch of them and get them on all the writing implements that anybody's going to use. Something that works well for younger kids to develop these skills is perler beads. If you have not seen them yet, perhaps if you have tiny ones, you probably know about these, or if you're in any sort of preschool or kindergarten kind of program, these are teeny tiny little plastic bits that you can build pictures on a pegboard, and then you get an iron and you iron it together. And so it's both an art project as well as really exercising that pincer grip. But here's the deal about fine motor muscular things. After about age 10, 9, maybe even 8, but certainly by age 10, if fine motor muscular things are still a limiting factor, it's not that you can't overcome it, but the amount of repetition that is required in therapy to actually build up those skills at that point in development, it's probably more than you're willing to do. And so you either have to really want it, or you need to say, okay, this is not so practical. A more practical approach is let's switch and have this kid do a lot more keyboarding or a lot more dictation to make sure that they can get their ideas out and they're not limited by this physical limitation. So this is one where if you are a family with a younger kid, like if this is what's going on, this is sort of like a work on it now, or like it may not be so movable later on, right? This is not we do an hour of therapy once a week and expect to see any outcome. Like that's really not going to do it after age 8 or 9 or 10 or so. Okay, so that was number 1. Ready for number 2? Here we go. Let's talk about automaticity. You'll notice a lot of overlap in the tree. Again, a little fuzzy about when we look about all the things that are happening in the tree. What am I really talking about automaticity? What is the root cause we're talking about here? We're talking about now not the physical part, but the brain-based part of letter formation. Is it automatic when the kid picks up a pencil and makes a letter A? Are they still sort of saying around and down every time they make a letter? Down and over, right? For a letter B, right? Whatever little mnemonic is in their head, like very appropriate kindergarten, first grade, but by about second, third grade, really should be automatic. And for some kids, that automaticity, the muscle memory, the motor memory for letters and numbers, it just doesn't snap in. We don't really know why. But for some kids, this is the issue. It's not a physical issue, it's more a brain automaticity issue. Really should be automatic by second or third grade at the absolute latest. So what would you see? You would see kids who are not writing their letters the same every time. Sometimes they start at the top, sometimes they start at the bottom. Sometimes they're doing it the O's around that way. Sometimes they're doing their O's around this way. If you look at their writing, letters on the same page look different. It doesn't look like they're stroking their letters the same way every time. Often these kids have messy handwriting, but sometimes, especially in our population of gifted and twice exceptional kids, you'll have the kid who really, really wants to write very neatly and is willing to go slow in order to make that happen. But they're not writing with automaticity. They're effectively drawing each letter. And so the root issue, whether it's very messy or very neat but painfully slow, it's actually the same root issue underneath, is a lack of automaticity. Does that make sense? Okay, so what do we do about this? This is an area that I'd say is less well developed by the research literature, but there are some clinical tools that have been developed. And so I think this is kind of cutting edge stuff. Probably the most productive approach that I've seen is something called the Lazy 8 exercise. There's a video on YouTube. Oh, I should find that. I didn't put that in the links that I sent you guys. Well, I'll find that link at the end of the talk, and we'll get it into the notes. And so what this video does is it shows you how to do this exercise with your kid. Okay, you get a nice big piece of paper or a whiteboard or a chalkboard or dirt and a stick or whatever. Okay, whatever your writing material is. And you have the kid do a big infinity sign. Okay, a lazy 8, an 8 sideways. Okay, what is this infinity sign doing? It is a very automatic motion. Okay, it is ideally turning on the automaticity part of the brain. You have the kid do this until it feels like they can do it with their eyes closed. In the beginning, it'll take a minute. As they get good at it, it won't take very long. Okay, so they do the infinity sign, and then there's a whole protocol for how to make letters on this, what ends up looking like a butterfly, as you can see in the picture, around and down for an A. And then you go right back down to doing a lazy 8. And then you do another letter, maybe a letter B. You pick a couple letters to work on a day, you do them each a couple times. And with young kids, actually, that works pretty well. What we think is happening from a neuroscience perspective is it's turning on the automaticity part of the brain and it's quick shoving in a letter. Okay, that's the theory of why this works. And with young kids, this seems to actually work quite well. With older kids, again, needs a lot more repetition. You may not be willing to do that much repetition once a kid gets older. I have a hypothesis that this might be the reason why cursive works for some of our kids. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that we have any research on this, but it's possible that cursive gives kids a second chance at developing automaticity a little bit later in their development when it didn't happen with printing earlier on. I don't know. We'll see. There's also a program specifically called Aerosmith that has a word and tracing exercise that is specifically aimed at automaticity. That's something that you can look for as well. But the bottom line is, again, if you don't catch this while a kid is young and kind of set this up well when in the right developmental window, once a kid gets older, it's really, really hard to move this. It requires a tremendous amount of repetition. And so again, what's more practical is moving to tools like keyboarding or dictation. So let's talk about assistive technology for a second, because we often need to make our peace with assistive technology. Sometimes these physical things, whether it's a muscle thing or whether it's an automaticity thing, is getting in the way of our kids getting their ideas out. Okay. And sometimes we have to get that barrier out of the way so that they can have access to that higher order thinking. We want to enable high order thinking without getting stuck in the mechanics. If the mechanics are getting in the way, let's get that off the table. So we give kids keyboards. We give them a way to dictate. With young kids, we might have them dictate to a human and the human scribes for them. We might give them access to spell check and grammar tools. And this app is the thing that makes this actually feasible in real life. This app is called SnapType. You can go download it right now, snaptypeapp.com. It is available for free. Works on both the iPad, iPhone, as well as Android land. And what it does is something very simple and very beautiful. It allows you to take a photo of any worksheet and then put the cursor anywhere and type. And so you can type into any worksheet that anybody created anywhere, whether it's a kindergarten worksheet, whether it is a high school worksheet, whether it's a college worksheet, well, it could actually be a form for the IRS, right? Theoretically, right? And then you can either print out the resulting thing, or you can even email it to your teacher. And so something like this could get written into a 504 plan to enable a kid to actually be able to truly type everything, not just essays, not just long form writing, but actually everything that they're asked to do in school. It can be a hugely valuable tool for a kid who needs that level of support. All right. This is an instantiation of Universal Design for Learning. Perhaps you've heard of it, UDL. UDL, the general principle behind it is that we want to make all learning accessible to all students. There's a whole lot of pieces of UDL, but the part of it that we're talking about here is about providing accommodations to all students. We don't want to make accommodations like keyboarding and dictation and spell check only available to certain kids. We want to make them universally available as much as possible, like a pencil. It is a tool in the classroom. All kids have access to it. Some kids prefer the pencil, some kids prefer the computer. Whatever, we don't care. Right? That's where we want to go. Because our twice exceptional students often think that accommodations feel like cheating if they're the only ones in the classroom who are allowed to use them. And so if you're having a conversation with a teacher and the teacher is saying, but the kid has their computer, it's written into their 504 plan, they're allowed to do it, everything's fine, but they just won't do it. A way to sort of help that teacher come onto your side is to say, yeah, but can we do this in a more UDL kind of way? Could we do this with the Universal Design for Learning principles in mind? Can we make these accommodations available to all students in the classroom so that this student doesn't feel singled out? And you'll see that those kids often, once it's available to everybody, often are much more willing to use their tools. And of course, many other students are going to benefit, right? Who never had the advocate, never had the diagnosis, never had the whatever, but actually could really benefit from that tool for whatever reason. Okay, so now we're on number 3. Number 3 is vision processing. So again, what's happening in the tree? A little bit fuzzy. Let's talk about what vision actually is. I am not talking about whether a kid needs glasses. I'm talking about the brain-based side of vision, not the eyeball side of vision. It's about whether the eyes are working together, whether they are focusing and refocusing in the same plane and in the same location. If they are not working well together, the kid often has trouble with 3D perception. Okay, and so sometimes our kids with vision issues are a little clumsy. They're not great at ball sports. They tend to walk into things. They tend to kind of be a little bit that kind of not super athletic. Or occasionally they're actually very athletic, but it's in something that doesn't require a whole lot of vision, like something very proprioceptive, like gymnastics or tumbling. When the two eyes are not working well together, you're going to see intermittent blurriness. So as when we're thinking about near work, as your eyes are moving across the page as you're reading, they should be moving together in sync. using saccadic jumps, right? But if your eyes are not moving together in sync and one eye is bobbling behind, things are going to go in and out of focus briefly, and then they'll come right back in. And that is going to cause stamina issues. It's going to cause that much harder. The kid may or may not be aware of that blurriness. If it's bad, they are. If it's not so, if it's more mild, they might not be aware of it, but it might just sort of cause extra stamina. If it's particularly challenging and the eyes are actually every now and again crossing, that's actually going to cause letters and words to move on the page or flip. And so letter reversals, especially after age 7 or so, very, very, very common to be a vision processing issue. B and D are the same letter flipped. B and D flip this way, now it becomes a P or a Q. Okay, so what would we see in behavior that would sort of tune us into, oh, this is probably a vision thing? Kids who are making mistakes even when they're copying, whether they're copying from a paper right next to them, or maybe they're copying looking far and copying to their page. Both of those scenarios are possible. Sometimes our kids learn how to compensate in a really fascinating way, especially with B, D, P, and Q. They start just writing those letters in capital, because when they're capital, they're always distinct and they always know which one is which. And so if you've got a kid who likes to write capital B in the middle of words, that's actually a possible sign of a vision issue. Kids who tend to omit punctuation, it's entirely possible they're not seeing it all the time, or it's just not, it's not the top of their focus. Sometimes these kids are making silly mistakes in math because it's hard for them to line stuff up correctly. And because the plus sign sometimes turns into a minus sign, the minus sign sometimes turns into a plus sign sometimes turns into a multiplication sign. And so they're not always sort of doing the right thing when they look at it quickly. All these things can cause kids to get inconsistent scores on tests. I would say the number one reason why I see a kid who really bright, really intelligent, maybe in a private evaluation, has really strong IQ scores, and then they go to school and they need to take a test to get into a highly capable program or a gifted program or whatnot, and the test does not remotely reflect the kid's ability. Often the actual issue is vision. Because especially with our young kids, a test like that may be the very first time that we've asked them to sit still, really dial in, focus on near work for that amount of time, to require that amount of stamina for like a full hour, right? Where detail matters to the very last second. Sometimes the first subtest of it goes okay, but then their performance degrades as they get more and more tired. Remember, with young kids, we just don't do that. We don't have them do something for a full hour that requires detailed near work. Like, that's not good elementary practice, right? And so that test may really be the very first time that your kid has had that level of stress on their vision system. If you have a kid who really prefers graphic novels, who really prefers picture books, who really resists moving to smaller fonts as their reading develops, sometimes that's an indication of vision issues. And as we mentioned before, sometimes kids who are sort of clumsy or have issues with sports, especially ball sports, that can be a sign also. There's a lot of different flavors of vision issues, and actually kids can each have a different profile. Sometimes it's only a near issue. Sometimes it's only a distance issue. And so just because your kid's beautiful at ball sports does not necessarily mean that there isn't an issue with reading. Okay, so if there might be a vision issue, how do you figure it out? How do you help? Number one, you go get tested by a specialist. What you're looking for is a developmental or a functional optometrist. There is a beautiful international directory at that website. Ideally, you're looking for somebody who's got the fellowship credential. It starts with an F, FCOVD, or they've got a new one now, FOVDR, I think they're calling it, but whatever. It starts with an F. And that is somebody who can both diagnose, who will do a more thorough vision exam. They're going to look and see, does your kid need glasses? But they're also going to look at all these other aspects of vision. Any of you who wear glasses know that when you go to a typical eye doctor, they test one eye and then they test the other eye. They actually do very little with both eyes together. Typical eye doctors don't notice this. They're not even looking for it. School screening, same thing. You have to go to a specialist for anybody to even ask the question whether this is what's going on. If there's an issue, vision therapy is extremely effective. Unfortunately, it requires a lot of time and effort, but it is one of the very few things that we actually know how to fix. Like, you do enough vision therapy, you can make it go away in almost every case. And so this is one where I really don't like to leave this on the table. If there's a vision issue, it's one of the best things that you can do to support that kid overall. Okay, what could you do in the classroom or at home? You can provide access to just make things bigger. Use e-readers to give access to large fonts, photocopy onto big paper. In the classroom, make sure that that kid is able to sit up front. A slant board actually can be a really great tool to get things at the optimal angle for vision. Turns out there's an optimal angle for vision. And so if you do both reading as well as writing work on the slant board, for some kids, that actually makes a huge difference. There are these little gizmos you can get on Amazon called reading guide strips. What is going on there is the gray part is blacking out the text, and the colored part in the middle is letting the text shine through, so you can hold it over a book, a page, or whatever it is that you're looking at to read one line at a time. It helps the eye track along one line. The colors, in my opinion, are just for fun. Some kids say that they like one color better than others. There's, I think, some unclear perspectives that say that certain colors make a real difference. I think most vision therapists say, yeah, when colors make a difference, that just means that the kid probably needs some vision therapy. But maybe colors make a difference in the short term. In my opinion, if the kid likes blue, give them blue. And that might help them want to actually use the tool. There's also a really cool trick you can use for math. Take regular notebook paper that has lines going this way, and for math time, use it with the lines going that way. So now you've got columns. And that can often help kids line their stuff up better with the tools that you already have available. If you want to be fancier, go get yourself some 1/2-inch graph paper, not regular graph paper, but 1/2-inch graph paper is available on Amazon, and that can be a really great tool as well. Okay, let's talk about number 4. Again, the tree, kind of fuzzy. Let's talk about dyslexia. What do we really mean about dyslexia? And often in our population, it comes out as stealth dyslexia, meaning it's hard to see. So what's the root cause behind stealth dyslexia? The root issue is actually an issue in what's called phonological awareness. How well is the brain able to hear the sounds of language and process the sounds of language separate from each other? When a kid has trouble with phonological awareness, they really have trouble sounding out words. Now, our kids get around that by reading everything as a sight word. And so when I work with a family and they proudly tell me that my kid was an early reader and they never sounded words out, they just learned how to read like magically and they just picked up words, I'm like, oh, shoot, we need to screen you for dyslexia. Because even if the kid is an early reader, that's not necessarily protective, right? Sounding out is a really important developmental stage, and it's a sign that phonological awareness is not necessarily all there. Because the problem is that spelling is like sounding out in reverse. And so if you can't sound a word out, you're also going to have trouble spelling. You're going to have trouble taking a word in your head, decomposing it into its sounds, and then spelling those sounds on the paper. And so often with our kids, we don't see tremendous issues in reading, some issues. We see much bigger issues in writing, and especially in spelling. Spelling rules often don't stick with a dyslexic kid. But at the elementary grades, often we see excellent fluency and excellent comprehension with elementary texts, even if they didn't read every single word. The topics are pretty predictable. What they're reading is pretty interesting. Chances are they've got a pretty big font of knowledge. And you usually don't see a big issue with sort of traditional elementary reading kind of ways of looking at elementary reading. So what are you going to see? You're going to see a lot of trouble with spelling. With some kids who are working really hard, they will maybe be able to memorize those spelling words for the Friday spelling test, but then by the next week, they disappear. It's hard for them to really hang on to them. Even before they start to read, rhyming may be really difficult. Any kind of wordplay, Pig Latin would be extremely difficult. Kids who had trouble with rhyming in general, especially rhyming words where you like not bat sat cat fat mat, which almost all kids memorize, right? Rhyming a word that maybe they haven't heard before. Okay. When they see a new word, and this often starts showing up in middle school and high school with our dyslexic kids who nobody noticed until they got much older. They have trouble sounding out new words, right? The names of the explorers in middle school social studies, the names of scientific principles and stuff that they've not seen before. As you get into more technical topics, sounding out those new words becomes really challenging. Kids often either skip them or they guess, but they're usually, if they've never heard the word before, they usually don't guess right. They may skip or substitute words. And again, when a kid is not necessarily reading every word on the page or not reading every word on the page correctly, that can lead to all kinds of inconsistency in standardized testing. So if there's some dyslexia going on, how do we screen that? The best way that I know to screen it is to use a free test that you can do right now with your kids. It's called the PASS test. It's available by David Kirkpatrick, who is fabulous. And what it does is it screens your kid for that phonological awareness skill. Let me do a practice one with you so that you kind of get a sense as to what this looks like. This is a repeat after me game. We are going to talk about flowers. The word is bloom. Say bloom. Okay. Now say bloom, but leave out the O sound. You should have said boom. Okay. Now say bloom, like the flower, but change the oo to an E. Bleem. Now it's a nonsense word. And actually, with our really bright kids, I don't think there's anything magic about the specific words in the test, although you can certainly do it as written. Playing around with nonsense words helps really isolate this skill with our really bright kids to make sure that they're not just lucky guessing. And so that's a great way of probing with your kids, like, okay, is this phonological awareness thing something that is difficult for my kid or not? If it is a difficulty, dyslexia is likely. Note that school screenings are not likely to catch a dyslexic kid, especially a dyslexic kid that's really bright and has learned how to read by sight words. Okay, so how do we help with dyslexia? Just like for any other dyslexic kids, structured literacy is the thing that we want. We want explicit instruction in phonics and phonological awareness. There's a whole bunch of different curriculums out there that are used in schools. There's also a whole bunch of curriculums that are used by independent tutors. Those are some names there that you can look for. Many tutors actually draw from multiple programs, which is totally fine. There is no one program that is better than the others. There are some online programs that are, I consider them sort of reinforcement. They're not enough to be sort of a primary intervention strategy, but if you're waiting to get in with the tutor, if you're wanting to sort of play around with it a little bit, if you want to do some reinforcement on the side, I think they're great tools. Take note of that treasurehunt.prenda.co link. I think that's very difficult to find on your own. And it's actually a free program, so it's a great resource available, particularly for early elementary kids. Also, audiobooks can be extremely helpful for our dyslexic kids. Learning Ally, Bookshare, Speechify. Speechify actually reads things to you out loud. And for many of our dyslexic kids, they really, really, really need their tools. They need to type and they need spell check. And if typing for some reason is not working for them, dictation is another great option. But probably the most important thing I have to tell you about dyslexia is that we really need to get better at figuring this out when kids are young, because intervention in first or second grade is twice as effective as intervention in third grade. Intervention in later grades still works, it just takes longer. And so ideally, we want to get much better at identifying this in young kids. By the way, that PASS test, it's completely oral. You can do it with a pre-reader. You can do it with a 4-year-old. And that's actually very predictive of whether that 4-year-old is going to have trouble reading, even if they haven't started reading yet. If you're looking for a dyslexia tutor, there are dyslexia organizations in most states in the country, and here are the ones that are local for us: Washington, Oregon, Southern California, Northern California. So that is there for you if you are looking for that resource. All right, number 5, let's talk about ADHD and executive function. So what's the root cause here? Contrary to popular belief, ADHD is actually not a lack of attention. Rather, it is a trouble changing your attention or regulating your attention. ADHD is actually better understood as an interest-based neurology. It's a type of neurodiversity where the brain really wants to be interested, and it can focus on things. It can actually even hyper-focus on things if it's interested. Okay, so Dr. William Dodson actually dialed this in for us and gave us a really great tool for understanding when the ADHD brain is going to be able to focus in. And it comes in this acronym, INCUP. Okay, interesting. If something is interesting to me, my brain is not going to have any trouble dialing in on it as an ADHDer. Okay, if it's novel, ooh, new, shiny, I've never seen that before, huh? Right? That's going to totally engage the ADHD brain. Challenging. Ooh, I wonder if I can do that. Do you think maybe I have a goal about that? That's one of the reasons why goal setting can be very powerful with these kids. And note, too easy doesn't work, right? If it's too easy, then it's not interesting anymore. It needs to be a little bit challenging, a little bit sort of on the edge of my abilities. Okay, so just making it easier often doesn't make things doesn't make things better. Urgency, we tend to overuse this one, gang, especially with our secondary students, right? How do you motivate an ADHDer to get their homework done in high school? It's due on Friday. You got to get it done on Friday. Guess what? It doesn't work unless the kid cares about the deadline. If you care about the deadline and the kid does not care about the deadline, urgency does not work. But even so, we don't really want to run our lives as adults or our kids' lives kind of by the seat of our pants where urgency is driving the show. So try not to overuse urgency. Yes, it works, but it probably shouldn't be your first strategy. That burns everybody out. Okay, P has been explained in 2 different ways, either as pressure, often in the context of social pressure. I love that teacher and I don't want to let them down, so I'm going to do their homework even though it's kind of boring, right? I'm doing this group project with this group of friends and I have to do my part, and I can't let them down because that relationship's really important to me. Okay, relationship really matters, especially for our ADHDers. Passion is another word that's been used to explain P. I think it's kind of a synonym to I, interesting. Something that I'm really passionate about, something that I'm really interested in, obviously is going to also work. So note, things that are rote, things that are boring, things that are easy, even if they are very, very important, not going to really engage the ADHD brain. And it's going to be really hard for an ADHDer to be able to dial in. Arguably, you could say the ADHD neurodiversity just can't. It's not that the kid won't, it's that they can't. Like, their brain is not designed for that. So what kind of clues might you see? You might see a kid that's having trouble getting started. They're having trouble staying on task and they're getting distracted. They have a lot of trouble with time management. They have trouble breaking down big projects into small pieces, and it all just seems too overwhelming. But here's the clincher. When they're interested in the topic, they can produce. And when they can produce and they're really interested, they can often produce amazing, beautiful things when they're interested, right? That gives you a clue that, maybe that's what we're dealing with here. Okay, so how do we help? I kind of already told you, but let me make it really clear. Interesting, novel, challenging, urgent, pressure, passion. That's your secret decoder ring. Whatever task it is, make it one of those things. Whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, and as kids get older, teach them how to do this for themselves. Adults, teach yourself how to do this for yourself, right? Okay, how do I adjust this task to make it more interesting to me? Can I align it with my interests somehow? Teachers, can I give some choice in topics or formats to make that more possible? Can I introduce this topic in a novel, unusual way that's going to spark excitement to help kids come along? Can I make an authentic project for a real audience that's going to be more inherently interesting? Can I make the topic more complex, a little more challenging, especially for our gifted and twice exceptional kids? They need something meaty to hang on to, and it's too easy, and they already know how to do it. That's a losing battle. Can we make it a little harder? Can we make it a little bit more challenging? Urgency, we could create some time pressure, but don't overuse it. And also recognize that when we put an accommodation for ADHDers to say extra time, that's not necessarily helping them. That doesn't make it easier. It just delays the problem to a different time, right? So keep in mind whether that's actually helping anything. And keep in mind that social pressure and teacher relationships matter. Building those relationships with other kids and with teachers, that often is the glue that actually makes us, a kid is willing to do the homework for this class, but not for that class. Often that's about the relationship with the teacher. Okay, but another thing that happens with our ADHDers is this. When we ask them to write, writing is actually a really linear thing. You got to write one word at a time. First this, then that, then that. Okay, you have to start somewhere. But our kids have a lot of ideas in their heads. And so you say, hey, we're going to write an essay about blah, 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 or what do you want to write about? And they say, oh, I've got lots of ideas, and they're all interconnected. Okay, it's not clear where to start. When you've got all these ideas in your head, how do you know what's the first word you should write? For many of our kids, this is the place where they get stuck. They just can't get going. Once they get going, we often see like, oh, it actually flows a little better from there. But just writing that first word, there can be a lot of angst there. So there's a really beautiful technique that I learned from a fabulous tutor. And it is this. You have to help kids figure out how to get the ideas out of their brain in a messy, unorganized way. And then once the ideas are out here in the real world where you can see it, then you organize. You don't try to figure out where to start until you've got it all in front of you. Okay. That's the basic idea. How do you actually pull that off? Well, okay. So probably the easiest one to visualize is via sticky notes. If I had a whole pile of sticky notes and I write each idea on a sticky note. Okay, I could maybe write about this. I could maybe write about, okay, I have this idea, and I pile up a whole bunch of sticky notes. Okay. And now, once I have them in front of me, now I can sort them a little bit. Okay, these ideas kind of might go together. Those ideas might go together. These ideas might go together. Actually, maybe these ideas don't belong in this essay. Let's put them aside. Okay. And now you've got a visual outline of what you're going to write. And you've got a reasonable place to start. Like, okay, that's the first paragraph, that's the second paragraph, that's the third paragraph. I've got a rough idea of where I'm going at. Okay. But sticky notes is not the only way to do this. For some kids, drawing works better. The mind mapping technique can be really helpful, right? Drawing ideas and sort of connecting them to other ideas and just kind of trying to export that crazy, messy map of your head onto paper. Drawing pictures, dictating to a computer, just stream of consciousness, just get it out. For our kids who are really reluctant and are having a lot of trouble, dictating to a scribe, to a human, actually can be a huge way to kind of get over this initial hump. And what is the human doing? They're just typing what the kid is saying. Okay, what ideas do you have about this? Well, I have that idea. I have that. Okay, and you just write it down. And then you hand that back to the kid and they can organize it and maybe copy paste and turn it into maybe an outline. Another technique is to have pair kids up in a classroom and let them walk and talk about their ideas. And sometimes just that is enough to kind of get ideas flowing enough that by the time they come back to their desk, they're ready to go and do something. But the bottom line is we need to help each student figure out what's going to work for them. And the thing that almost every teacher is going to hand your kid is not going to help. The graphic organizer that we've all seen that says, what's the title of your essay? And what's the main idea of your essay? What are you going to talk about in paragraph 1? What are you going to talk about in paragraph 2, etc., right? Why doesn't it work? Because it's imposing order too soon. It's not a step 1 tool. It's a step 2 tool. Step 1 has to be messy. Step 1 has to be unorganized. Okay. Step 2, that graphic organizer could be a great tool to sort of take a look at all your sticky notes and say, okay, what is the main idea here? Yeah, okay, I see it now. Okay, which one of these is paragraph 1? Okay, I can put that in the graphic organizer now. That might be helpful as a tool. But for step 1, it's not the right tool yet. It's going too far too fast. Okay, so we've kind of looked at the whole tree and these 5 big ideas, and hopefully you have some ideas about like, okay, probably that, probably not that for your own kid situation. But there's a hidden factor here that I want to pull out. We want to figure out the root cause. We totally believe in Dr. Ross Green. Kids do well if they can. If they're not doing well, there's a reason. We got to find the reason. You've gotten some tools here to, help start dig into finding those reasons. But here's the thing that is often also in the mix. When kids are anxious about writing, it just makes everything so much worse. Why would they be anxious? Well, often it's because it didn't go well before, right? Because there wasn't enough guidance, there wasn't enough clarity. Somebody was correcting every mistake, and the kid left with this impression, I'm not good at this. And so now every time I'm being asked to write, it just brings up that anxiety. Kids can develop a lot of fear of criticism, a lot of worries around time pressure, and this can be compounded by all kinds of other disabilities that we don't have time to talk about tonight. So first, if this is your kid's story, recognize that you're going to need to undo some of that prior writing trauma. Like that's step 1 before any of the rest of the stuff is going to work. Okay, let's talk about perfectionism for a second. What do we really mean by perfectionism? Many of our kids sort of appear to be perfectionistic. Some of them are the kind of kid who erase a hole in the paper and they have to have it be just right. But actually, that's only one way that perfectionism can show up. A lot of other ways. For instance, a kid who hates criticism. Uh-oh, that means I'm not perfect. Who dwell on mistakes. Uh-oh, it's a mistake. The kid who reaches for impossible goals. I know what it should be like, but I can't quite do it in my 10-year-old body. Kid who really wants the first draft to be the final draft. I suspect we have a lot of those kids represented here tonight. That makes it really hard to start. But what is perfectionism really? It's not about producing perfect work. Do your kids produce perfect work? It's pretty rare. Perfectionism really, in a lot of ways, is about avoiding risk, avoiding the possibility of failure, avoiding the possibility that it's not going to go right. And writing is very vulnerable. What if I make a mistake? There is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And kids have heard about that in school from day 1. There is a correct way to spell that word. There is a correct way to write the grammar. There is a place, whether it deserves a period or a comma or whatever, like there are rules for all that. What if I make a mistake? But even deeper than that, what if people don't like my ideas? What if people disagree with my viewpoint? What if I forget to say something important? What if they laugh at me? Writing is really a window into the soul, and it can feel very, very raw. It can be a super emotional experience. So, as parents and teachers, rule number one is you've got to take off the pressure. Stop criticizing your kids' writing. Do not try to make it perfect. Put a lot more focus on the ideas that your kid is writing about, not the mechanics. Don't correct all the spelling mistakes, all the grammar mistakes, unless it's the final draft and it's going for the king and it's really important. Okay. Let kids have kid ideas. You don't have to give them better ideas. Let them have their own ideas. Praise the progress, not the outcome. Celebrate small successes, especially if you're unwinding prior trauma in writing. Like, this is going to be an iterative process, and you're going to need to take small bitty steps. Those small successes are going to lead to bigger successes, and eventually we're going to get to some self-confidence. The goal here is developing confidence in writing. That is so much more important than perfecting mechanics. And as we know now, artificial intelligence can fix the mechanics for you, right? If it really came down to it. It's the ideas that is the important part, and that is the real human value add. Okay, so to wrap up here, some strategies that help. We want to start with interests. We want to start with inspiration, high interest topics, passion areas. Do an authentic project for a real audience. When kids are having trouble starting with writing, one of the best things that we can do is pick something that is super, super interesting for them to write about. Don't have them write about some stupid thing. Have them write about something that they really care about. Okay, so ideas for how you can make that work in a school environment. Talk to teachers. Ask to modify school assignments. Okay, we need to write an essay about whatever, but could I write it from the perspective of a biologist? Could I write about the architecture if I'm an architecture nut? Maybe I could record a podcast instead of writing to begin with, right? Ask teachers for modifications. Often they'll surprise you and say yes, but they're not necessarily going to come up with the idea themselves. Strategies that help with generating writing. Number one, don't push this too soon. Like, if you're expecting your third grader to be writing essays, like, knock it off. Like, fifth grade, sixth grade, that's when writing should be starting to kick off. Don't push this too early. If a kid is having trouble generating ideas, offer some sentence starters. Get them talking in all the ways that we've talked about already. Help them understand the first draft is not going to be perfect. Let's just write a quick draft and then we can edit it. We can make it better over time. When in doubt, we want to provide more support, not pressure. Support for the ideas, focus on the ideas, don't focus on the mechanics. Make your peace with technology, use the tools. When handwriting is getting in the way, give a kid a computer. Some families find it amazing that once their kid actually starts typing, even if they're typing like this, their ability to actually produce really interesting ideas just goes way, way up. Okay, strategies that help with editing. Have the student read it out loud or have the computer read it out loud. You often hear your mistakes way better that way. Learn how to use all the tools, spell check, Grammarly, all the good stuff. When you're offering feedback, don't insist. Don't tell a kid, oh, you got to change that. Say, you're the author. Here's what I'm noticing. Your job is to listen. You can decide whether you want to take any of this feedback later. Let's just talk about what I see. And it really doesn't have to be perfect. Let it go. Do not feed the perfectionism monster. It does not have to be a perfect piece of writing. This is a developmental process and we want progress, not perfection. Okay, I figured I should say a little something about artificial intelligence because, gosh, it is upon us. And I have found it helpful in my own writing. It's really helpful for generating ideas. It's really helpful for suggesting possible edits. It gives you an impartial critique. And for some of our kids, especially our PDAers or those who are really sensitive to criticism, having a third party offer that reduces, I think, some of the emotional overhead in it. Okay. I think also a lot of the AI tools I've worked with are actually really good at kind of pumping you up. Like this was really good in your writing before they suggest a change. And actually, I have found that to be pretty validating. And I think our kids will also, if they start using it. So I'm thinking particularly about high school students now. Um, I have found AI to be extremely helpful to ask for suggestions when you're stuck. When you're like, I don't know what to do next, literally ask the question to AI, what do you think I should say next? What do you think should go? What ideas am I not thinking about here? And often that helps you unstick your thinking. But always use your brain to figure out whether or not what it's suggesting is actually something that makes sense in your context. It's a great source of ideas and suggestions, but you still need your brain. Because AI generated writing is always going to sound like AI generated writing, and that's not what we're going for. We need to talk about this. We need to show students how to use AI responsibly. I think we're kidding ourselves if we think they're not going to use it. So help them use it for good, not evil. Okay, if you are thinking about a kid who needs some accommodations at school, here's a list of accommodations you might consider. Specific things you can write into a 504 plan or an IEP. Allow student to type everything or dictation software, allow access to spell check, access to snap type, reduced repetition, extra time, a scribe, turning notebook paper sideways for math, half-inch graph paper for math. I'm sure we could come up with more, but those are probably some of the most important ones. And by the way, really important to get this stuff actually written down in a formal plan so that later in high school, when you need accommodations on the SAT, ACT, AP tests, IB tests, all that stuff, there's a paper trail. When these accommodations only show up for the first time with a kid in ninth grade, it can be really hard to get the College Board to agree with you that this is an appropriate accommodation. So even if your teacher is fabulous and is doing all the right things in elementary school, get it documented. Get it documented so that you have that because you'll need it a bunch of years from now. Okay, I think these are really fabulous writing programs to try if we're looking for something for homeschoolers or something after school. Druidon does this really awesome collaborative fantasy writing aimed at middle schoolers. Written Out Loud brings groups of kids together with an actual coach that helps them co-create something out loud, actually a publishable book. And Night Zookeeper is a more traditional curriculum, but I think it does a nice job for elementary and middle. And tutors are really, really helpful. And with that, I am done. So I'm happy to take some questions. I suspect there's all kinds of stuff going on in the chat that I haven't seen. And if you want to reach me, that's all my particulars.
Thank you so much, Austina. Wow, you covered so much. That was so amazing. There's lots of clapping going on. So yes, there were a lot of questions. One of them is, how common is it for kids to have a mix of multiple root causes, and what's the treatment strategy in such a case? How do you tease those apart? What do you do?
I would say it's the rare kid that only has one thing going on.
Listening to her talk on how to help kids like.
Oh, I go, sorry.
I'd say it's really rare for a kid to only have one thing going on, actually. It's much, much more common for there to be multiple things going on. And I think what happens is we'll go visit a neuropsych. We think we got the whole picture. We'll focus on those things, but it kind of doesn't explain the whole story and it doesn't provide all the support modalities that are needed for that kid. And so it helps to some degree, but it doesn't actually solve the whole problem, or it doesn't provide enough support. And so the kid still doesn't feel seen and they're still having a lot of struggle in areas that really are supportable if we took the time to dig deeper. Yeah, great question. Great question. That is what I specialize in, is helping families dig deeper and figure out what's really going on in more detail. Because sometimes these sort of big umbrella diagnoses, even like autism and ADHD, like they just don't tell the whole story. You need to kind of break it down into smaller bits.
Thank you for that. Okay, I feel like my kid really freezes with writing and gets that deer in headlights look. Sometimes it seems like he freezes, doesn't necessarily have a big mess of ideas in his head that he needs to get out. It's just like he goes blank, especially if it's not factual based information.
Okay, well, that is the kind of case where you use some of those oral techniques. So walking and talking with another kid or talking with an adult. Well, let's just have a conversation about it. Forget about writing. Like, let's not worry about the writing part. Let's just have a conversation about it. Like, what did you think of that story? What did you think of that whatever? What do you think is going to happen next? Right? Just talk. Just talk. First, develop the ideas. And maybe your first couple of goes around is just talking, right? And then you'll work up to, okay, I'm going to write that down as we talk. Okay, here's what you said. Maybe you could actually develop that into something, right? Take little steps along the way. You're not going to get to the prize all in one step. Go slow, one step at a time. And there's lots of time. Lots of kids don't really figure out this whole writing thing until high school. And that's okay.
An interesting thing, we have an autistic young adult who wrote an article for us. You're just reminding me because you talked about AI as well. And she said sometimes for especially autistic learners, a question like, what did you love about this summer? Or what did you learn from being on the robotics team is just so broad. And so she uses AI and asks it, can you reformat this question into specific small details that I can then answer? And I thought that was
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight. It's a chunking strategy, right? Make it smaller, right? Make it more specific, make it smaller. It's sort of too broad and open-ended. So let's tighten it up.
Oh, and Austina, I had a request to stop sharing so that we could see you big.
Oh, I can do that. Sorry.
And then did we spotlight you? Do you mind being giant? Okay.
Oh, okay. Hi, all.
What are the best ways to improve collaboration on supporting writers with teachers who might not be informed about 2E challenges?
Oh, that's we could spend a whole multiple hour conversation talking about that. You know,
Sorry.
but I mean, I would share some things that you learned tonight, right? Borrow my slides, show them some of my slides, right? Is there a way that we can break this up into smaller pieces? Can we recognize these are really hard things? Do we really have to write this? Can we make this a higher interest? Can we break it up into smaller pieces? Can we use some sort of getting the ideas out technique? Um, a parent is usually in a better place to be able to kind of do that root cause analysis around like, okay, which of these five main root causes are probably at play? Right. And if you can come to the school and say, I think this is the main issue, right? Or I think it's these two issues, maybe the school can help you work through diagnosis. Although, honestly, it is the rare school that has the ability to diagnose all five, especially in the context of a twice exceptional kid. Often that's going to need to happen outside of school. And it's totally inequitable and it drives me bananas and it's not fair. But that is the state of the world right now, is that you will probably need external experts to help you really chase this down and to get full diagnosis. But once you have that diagnosis in hand, you can bring it back to the school and say, see, this is what's going on. These are the supports that are actually going to help. And a 504 plan would certainly be a great place to start with that.
Okay, we have a few questions about VPD, which you've probably heard before, about vision processing. I'm hearing conflicting info from my kids' providers. Some saying it's likely the root cause of his difficulties, and others say there was not good evidence for this and the treatment that is promoted by it. Can you point us to credible evidence on this?
Yeah, there's so much FUD about vision processing disorder out there. It's really unfortunate. So here are the major confusions. The major confusions is that there are some people who will say vision processing disorder, if you do enough vision therapy, it's going to cure your kid's dyslexia. Like, that's just not true. They're two totally different things. Okay. And the dyslexia organizations have come out and said, no, 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 that's not true. Like, vision therapy is not going to help with dyslexia. That is true. They are two separate issues. And often kids have both. Okay, so it's understandable how it got confused, um, but they really are two separate things. It is possible, and I work with kids all the time, where actually vision is the only thing going on. Like it's not a dyslexia, it's actually just vision. Okay. And it's also possible that it's just dyslexia and there's no vision. But what is more common is that it's both. Okay. And what often happens is a family figures out one, does some amount of therapy, and says, we didn't get all the benefit that we thought we were going to get here. And what they need to do is now turn and say, oh, we need the other side also. And sometimes you start on this side, sometimes you start on that side, but either way, you kind of need both pieces often to get to sort of a really stable solution for the kid. The cool thing about vision therapy is it works even for adults. Unlike dyslexia intervention, which works so much better with younger kids, vision therapy actually works pretty darn well at any age, even like into your 70s, 80s. Takes a little longer the older you are, but totally possible. And so it's never too late. It's never too late for anything, but it's really never too late for vision.
Super interesting. Okay, I know you did cover some anxiety, but I'll just read you a question that was posted. Is my autistic teen daughter wrote all the time when she was in elementary school? She loves writing for her own interest, but ask her to write an essay for school and it's like torture. She gets incredibly anxious. She will wait until the last minute and stay up till all hours getting the paper done. Her teachers always comment how good her writing is, but they don't see all the anxiety that is happening at home. What causes this type of situation? What can we do about it?
Well, I hope you can use some of the clues that we talked about tonight to help root cause that situation, right? There is no one answer to that question. Like it depends on the kid. Like, okay, is there an underlying vision issue? Is there an underlying dyslexia? Is there an underlying handwriting issue? Have we gotten that kid on a computer, right? Is there an underlying ADHD? Is there just trauma about writing that we kind of need to undo? Like, where's the problem coming from? It's probably multifactorial, right? And so, like, I would start there because that's going to tell you, okay, what's in the toolbox, right? And then I would take slow steps, right? When a kid is having trouble, believe them, it's hard for them. And so take slow steps to help them develop those skills one piece at a time. Don't ask them to run before they can walk.
Thank you. Okay. There's so many more. I'm just looking through them with my bad eyes now. This is an interesting one. My son reads a lot of history and a lot about wars and politics. And whenever there's any fiction writing, he includes a lot of gory details of blood and death. He's otherwise a super happy child. He just thinks this is what's happening around the world. And so that reflects in his writing too. What do I do about this?
I don't know. Is it a problem? I think if he's willing to write and he's got big ideas, I think for now you go with it. Like, why is that an issue? There might be a conversation about, is it school appropriate? Is it home appropriate? Where what's the right forum for it? But I don't think I would say don't. Maybe that's just my personal values leaking through, but I think we want to honor the ideas that the kid is working with, and there's a sense in which writing it's sort of therapeutic, right? You're working through your own opinions about things, right? Like, yeah, he's seeing a lot of craziness in the world and he's writing about it and it's helping him think that all through. Like, I think I'd say thank you that he's actually doing that work.
Interesting. I have two eighth graders, and writing is so important at this stage, regardless of the accommodations we have made. Despite having become good readers and good readers through work, they have severe spelling challenges. That makes even using dictation difficult and frustrating, so they opt for simple sentences.
Yeah, so it's time to really think hard about dyslexia. And it's not uncommon to not realize that a kid is dyslexic until middle school, high school, college. I mean, I work with parents who are like, oh my gosh, like actually that's me, right? You can grit your teeth through a lot and really compensate a lot. But those underlying challenges, once there's sort of two sides to recognizing like, oh my gosh, that is my form of neurodiversity. That is my brain pattern, right? It makes it not so mysterious anymore. It's not like, oh, there's something the matter with me. Oh, I'm just wrong or broken. It's like, oh, that's a predictable pattern. Like, I'm going to have trouble with these things, but guess what? The dyslexic brain also has some really fabulous strength areas. I'm also going to be really good at that stuff, and that stuff's going to be easier for me. Right? Once we understand it, it's so much easier to understand who we are and to have self-confidence about that, right? So that it's not mysterious. And then also we can use tools, right? And we can know which tools are going to help. And we can get, sort of official strategies at school, 504 plans and accommodations and whatnot to actually support the needs that we have, right? So like whenever somebody says spelling is the big deal, like I my first the first thing I ask about is, okay, let's figure out if there's a dyslexia underneath this, because usually that's what's going on. And usually it's hidden. Wish we'd discovered it sooner.
So this is an interesting question. Our school routinely says that the goal is for kids to outgrow their need for accommodations because they don't have them in real life. Meanwhile, his dad has accommodations for 30 years. Students have had to repeatedly ask for their accommodations. This strategy seems to be making obtaining the accommodation more burdensome than doing the work without it. How do we address this?
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. I mean, you can see from my body language. Like in the real world, people use accommodations all the time and they don't think about them as accommodations, right? How often are you dictating a text message to your telephone? Right? That's an accommodation, right? You're just using tools, right? People in the real world use tools all the time. And actually, I think we ought to be teaching our kids in K-12 education how to use the tools of the modern world, asking them to do things the old-fashioned way with a pencil when we've got all these other tools that make them more efficient and more effective. Like, what is the point of that? Like, these kids are going to have tons of access to tools, and you're going to build based on your understanding of your unique profile of strengths and challenges. You're going to figure out which tools work for you, right? And you're going to take that knowledge with you and use it as an adult, right? Shouldn't we be helping kids figure out, like, okay, this is my palette of tools, this is what makes me most effective? Like, I think that's what K-12 education ought to be doing. And so teachers who think that that's true, like that's just misguided. And like, even in colleges, in community colleges and four-year universities, et cetera, it's so much easier to get accommodations than it is in K-12 education. It's kind of totally the tables are turned. And the depth of accommodations that you can get as a college student are much deeper. You can get a note taker, you can get a scribe, you can get a lot of these things that in most public schools they just couldn't afford to offer to a student, but they're available in the university system. And so the idea that like kids need to outgrow this stuff, I think that's just totally misguided.
Thank you. Yes, we agree. How do you tease out giftedness from ADHD? This is a little bit not quite just about writing, but we know that they overlap. So
Well, you could ask the same question about how do we tease out ADHD from dyslexia, because there's a little overlap there too. And it's a little overlap between ADHD and autism, because there's some overlap there too, right? And so, I mean, it gets complicated, right? And this is why when I work with families, like there's a fairly short list of evaluators locally here in Seattle, as well as nationally, that I encourage families to use to who really can tease that stuff apart. Even very well-meaning professionals don't always get it right especially when you've got a very bright kid with a very high IQ who can compensate tremendously. They don't have the same symptom profile as a typical kid and even a very well-meaning, very competent provider will get it wrong. And so to really understand what's going on, like take the time to find the expert, pay the extra, take the extra effort to go the extra mile, because sometimes you really, especially with our much more complex kids, you really need that expertise to tease it apart. There is no easy answer to that question.
Thank you so much. So we are out of time. There are still a ton more questions. So for those of you who didn't get a chance to have your question answered, Austina has generously offered her contact information. It is in the chat. So please feel free to email her directly. I just want to let you know we've gotten a lot of things in the chat. This is the best talk I've heard, and all kinds of other lovely things. So we really, truly thank you for coming tonight. And please do take the time, audience, to fill out the feedback form that Callie just put in the chat. I mean, we're getting all the accolades, so thank you so much. Oh, I've learned we do this. So thank you so much, Austina, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I always enjoy working with you guys. You're doing great work.